Hey safety friends, it's Abby Ferri back with another edition of the Safety News and what I'm thinking about this week. So you'll hear this Monday, July 27th, 2020. What I'm thinking about this week is excavation and trenching safety, and that's mostly because of two fatalities on a project site in Phoenix, Arizona last week. And it was an all too familiar story that first trench collapse resulting in a fatality, but two fatalities this time, which is just awful. And I learned it was two men, both apparently 35 years old. So fairly young. Maybe we think they should have known better. As I kept reading, another all too familiar circumstance is that they were installing a sewer line into a home service, so at a residential development. And this is all too familiar because it seems that it's always these not super deep trenches with not super big diameter piping, but it's something that maybe people just have a more lax mindset about, that, oh, it's not that deep, the pipe's not that big, it'll only take a few minutes. I don't know what they were thinking, and we'll never know what they were thinking or what all of these other workers were thinking when trenches collapsed on them. So even though the OSHA trench safety stand down already happened in June, if your crews are working in, near, around excavations or are about to, it's always important to talk about trench safety and the ultimate importance of ensuring that the trench is protected from caving in. Every worker that approaches work in a trench should think about their personal safety and think about, do they have an out? How do they get out? How is this trench protected from caving in? And then looking further, if the cave-in protection is installed correctly. It's always awful when you see news stories where there's a trench collapse and the fire department arrives and they put shoring in. Or you see news photos where there's trench boxes or trench shields or shoring that's on the side, off to the side at the job site, never used. What is it about trenches and excavations that makes people think that they're not harmful or that they can go in just real quickly and get the work done they need to do? I've been on many projects in the past where we have been required to plan out our trenching work weeks in advance. And that often was difficult, and it always frustrated me. Why was it so difficult to plan ahead something that we knew was coming on the schedule that's very high hazard? All it would take would be an email, a phone call, text message, a quick meeting in the trailer to talk about what's our plan to make sure this trench is safe. Digging, excavating, trenching on a job site is usually not a surprise, so it's usually something that we can plan out far in advance, especially when we have things like piping or other mechanicals and structures that rely on that trench being dug. Of course, there's a planning process in place. We need to use it. So as you're approaching this week, especially if you have trenches and excavations on your job site, or even if your workers just work around other crews that are trenching and excavating, make sure to find the news story, and I'll post it here with this news post. Find the story about those two workers that were killed in the trench collapse. And even if it doesn't directly relate to the type of work that your crews are doing, they can still learn valuable lessons from what's occurred. I'll also link you to another website that is tracking trench cave-in fatalities. And unfortunately, there's a lot of information there. So if this residential site example from last week in Phoenix doesn't strike your crew as something familiar or close to the work they do, it's likely you can find an example of a trench collapse that's occurred that's a little more close to home for your workers. Unfortunately, that's the case. So I encourage you, as you're looking at this week, talk about trenching and excavating and talk about how your workers can make sure that the conditions are safe before they enter the trench. This week on the Safety Justice League podcast, we have another social media safety minute from Jason Lucas, another safety snakebite from Jason Maldonado, and another Redbeard rant. We also have 2 new episodes of the Safety Justice League podcast with the whole crew, we've got an interview with Michael Zell from Yellowbird and an interview with Lori Frederick. Make sure to check out these episodes this week and make sure to binge on anything you want anytime on our back catalog. Thanks again for listening. Make sure to like, share, and leave a review. Have a safe week.